Welcome back to our Toad podcast. My name is Rene Flores, and I'm here today with my main host, Luis Calderon. Luis, how are you?
Hello, Renee. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. We are also here with our special guest, Angelica Garcia. Angie, how are you?
Hi, I'm hungry and tired and stressed.
Okay, I'm going to pass it off to my main host, Luis.
Well, welcome back, as Renee said, to our second episode of the Oppressed and Depressed, or for short, Total Podcast. We are here with one of our best friends. I want to start with Renee. Renee, how was your day?
It's been going good, actually.
Tell me about
it.
it.
I woke up around 6:30.
Uh-huh.
I did my little
Okay, I don't
routine.
care. Angie, how was your day?
It's been pretty decent so far. I've been trying to be productive, but I honestly don't know if that's
Okay,
going
Luis,
as
can we
planned.
get started with the
All right,
segment,
we
please?
will start by saying hello to all the ladies listening to this podcast. It is International Women's Day. We celebrate you, but we celebrate you every day, so nothing's changed.
You sure about that?
We're just celebrating you a little more today, that's all.
Yes.
Hmm.
So we will start off, we'll be asking International Women's Day kind of vibe. Our first comment comes from Alicia98981, and her unpopular opinion can be found on Unpopular Opinion subreddit. And she says, International Women's Day should focus more on improving the quality of lives and education of the women who suffer the most versus Western feminists patting each other on the back for being women. We will start with Angelica Garcia. And G, what do you think?
I actually agree with what she's saying. I see her perspective on that. With saying that of the Western cultural, that is true. But at the same time, the educational part and everything else of that sort is actually more important. With again, every day, no matter what holiday that is being celebrated, it should be women actually go through a lot. Okay, so most of them, obviously, you guys know that. So let's say what? Rape, sexual assault, giving birth, what else? In the majority periods. I don't think you guys want to be having a tiny human being coming out of your,
Renee?
My sentiments kind of echo those of Angie.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that, at the risk of sounding a little corny, a little cheesy, whatever you want to call it, every day should be Women's Day.
Uh-huh.
Yay!
Shout out to all the moms out there.
Shout out to all the single moms too, getting that hustle on.
Of course.
Providing for the little baby, little family.
So we're gonna read a snippet from this, and then we'll get Renee's reaction to Angie's comment, and the snippet. The snippet that Alicia provides us with says, "The people whose voices need to be heard the most are the voiceless women who suffer under patriarchy and poverty. I will not deny the achievement and accomplishments of women that have paved the way for future generations. They should be celebrated. But I personally feel more accomplished striving for equality and success of women who have any less than I do in my Western comforts." So Renee, what do you think about it?
I think that every woman should have her rights, and everyone is entitled to be their own person, be in control of what they do.
Yeah.
I think that women in the West I've never been to the Eastern Hemisphere. I wouldn't be able to tell you what the culture is like over there.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not very qualified to talk about this. But based on what I know, I feel like women in the West have it easier when it comes to women's rights and suffrage as opposed to women in the Eastern Hemisphere. But I feel like sometimes women in the Western Hemisphere, they kind of don't know how to appreciate that in a way. It's
like real suffrage,
Yeah,
basically.
basically. So it's good to fight for your rights. It's good to want more recognition.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can come off as a little ungrateful in a way. You don't know how good you have it until you don't have it. That's a big issue with the whole feminism, feminazi, quote unquote thing. There's those women that they feel entitled to something simply because they're women.
Yeah.
And I think it's that little group of women that makes everybody else who fights for feminism look bad. And if you ask me, back in the day, feminism was kind of like a negative topic for me. And again, because it's that little group of people that just ruin the whole thing for everybody.
Yeah.
They ruin the fun.
So the top comment in this post is by the user Zakika, who says that would require effort. So we'll move on to the next post. This is submitted by the user JLR09, and their post says, International Women's Day is completely insufferable. Now, before we comment on that opinion itself, let us read the snippet. The snippet says, my Snapchat Discover page is full of articles trumpeting the superiority of females in a society that is supposedly gender neutral, where gender is only a construct. Both of those phrases are in quotation marks. The snippet goes on to say, I don't need a list of 14 things women do better than men. Thanks, I hate it, Cosmo, to make me feel empowered. Fake girl power like this distracts from the quiet strength of women everywhere who get up, go to work, and accomplish great things. Angie, I want you to start this conversation. What do you think about this post?
I think he's actually like right
She.
on that. She.
We can't assume their gender.
It's always been that, guys always, do things to women. And I think to a certain extent, women should be able to do the same, like not exactly the same, but being able to a little bit, because if guys can, then why can't girls either? But again, exactly, like you don't have to be always bringing it up and be pointing it out, because the more you bring it up and the more you talk about it, I mean, a person is going to get annoyed and just get fed up and be like, well, I don't care about what you're saying, or regardless, it's going to be going again, like how Renee was speaking about earlier. It's a cycle. It's going to be going back and forth. So
Renee?
Yeah, picking up what she alluded to about the whole cycle.
Yeah.
When a woman disrespects a man, that makes the man want to disrespect the woman. And we get this vicious cycle of you give, I take, you give. I don't know what the solution would be to this, but there does have to be some sort of a balance or something to break this cycle. If we really want to if feminists really want to end feminism, they have to stop with this whole trying to degrade men and trying to like belittle them. It should be less about that and more about empowering yourself and making yourself grow. And I feel like that's something, again, not enough women do, especially within the whole feminazi thing. They take an offensive approach as opposed to something, I'm not going to say defensive, but something where they should look inside themselves. If you want to change something, if you want to change the world, you have to start by changing yourself. And that's something I don't think a lot of these so-called feminists realize.
Quick question for you before I forget. What's one way that you think, besides that women could do by empowering themselves or the gender itself?
Well, women can empower them. I feel like from the ridiculously small sample of women I know of the population of women in the world, I'd say the overwhelming majority of that sample a lot of the times lacks that self-love and that self-confidence. I don't know if that's partially down to the culture and just partially down to themselves. And I think a good place to start would be by empowering those women, by empowering yourself. If you're a girl out there who has a lot of doubt in herself, who doesn't believe in herself, that's where it has to start. That's where the change has to start. You have to believe in yourself. You have to love yourself before you try to go and do anything else. Kind of like with a relationship. You can't be in a relationship if you don't love yourself. You have to love yourself first.
All right, so Angie, what would you do? You asked the question, but what would you do?
I don't know. I guess I don't know. I feel like there should be more awareness. I mean, there is awareness about self-love, but I don't think there's enough of it. I don't know. I feel like there should be more classes, workshops, maybe more tutorials on how to do your makeup. I don't know. I feel like nowadays, and I see it whether if it's in school or on social media or in the mall, a lot of girls think that everything is a competition to be who has a better body, who has a bigger ass, who has bigger boobs, who is smarter, who's prettier, who has better skin, better makeup, more viewers, more likes on social media. I don't know. I feel like it should start with girls ourselves, and then girls, I feel like that's where it should start off first.
So we mentioned, I believe maybe in the first podcast, but we mentioned it, I think, also in this second podcast. Social media plays a big role in advertising and in getting out messages. And would you say that because of social media, the issue of women's rights and feminism and feminist actions and stuff has been affected positively or negatively because of it?
In my opinion, negatively.
How so?
Again, it's just like the same thing. Just, again, who's prettier, promoting themselves. It's everything. The girl always has to be better than another girl. And that's how I always seen it. And sadly, it's the truth. And I don't know how it's going to be in the future.
Renee, you come from the perspective of having...
The impact of technology has been huge in the fields of science and politics, everything else.
Yeah.
It's been a huge positive impact. On the culture and the society, it's been a huge negative impact, in my opinion. Word gets around so quickly now. If I do something right now in this office, someone over halfway across the world in China can know about it in 5 minutes. If you tweet about it, if you text them, whatever.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing if you think about it. We're talking like back in the 1800s, back in those messages would take 5-6 months to cross the Atlantic.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to prove through all this is that this back and forth ping, pang, boom of information kind of distorts the culture, and it doesn't always give you time to process the message.
Would you say it changes the message?
It changes the message. It doesn't give you time to process it.
Mm-hmm.
Back to this whole feminism thing. When you see something on social media, you see something anywhere on the internet, process it. And I think a lot of the time, people act more reactively now instead of actively.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a big kind of cultural mindset we have. A lot of youth now, a lot of people now, not just youth,
Yeah.
they're not, and that's a huge problem.
So we'll move on to the top comment for this post. It's from the user I Hate My Toe. And he or she says, I just like the little fun facts that come with it. International Women's Day. We'll move on to the third and last post. This post comes from the user Otesi Nash 7. Their unpopular opinion is women today are more sexist than ever. And the snippet says, first of all, happy Women's Day, ladies. There's not much to say. It's pretty clear in my opinion. Men are being treated like toys. And don't tell me that white privilege still exists. If you're a woman, especially a black woman, you're getting treated like a queen, and it's perfectly fine for you to be sexist and racist towards men. You can notice that all over social media and outside of it. Women can call a man useless in bed, and it's funny, but if a man calls out a woman, it's apparently sexist. That's a childish example, to be honest. A woman is more likely to get accepted in a job rather than a man, because if a man gets chosen instead of a female, it's again sexist, because the manager thinks that I'm stupid because I'm a woman, or even he thinks that I'm not capable of dealing with this job because of my sex. In high school, I was sexually harassed by a bunch of girls. They would slap my ass and shit for a very long time, but one day when I did the same goddamn thing, she snitched me to the principal and accused me of sexual harassment and rape intentions. I mean, it's terrific. Renee?
Well, based on that last little bit, I think we can assume I Hate My Toes, but I don't think they're wrong. I think that what they're saying is pretty spot on. Nowadays, if I were to do something over here to Angie,
Mm-hmm.
if she wanted to, I'd be accused, and basically she would have a lot more. Me doing something to her would be a lot worse, quote unquote, than her doing something to me,
Mm-hmm.
because of this whole gender double
Standard.
standard thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just that's a huge problem, and it goes back to the whole reactive versus active thing.
Angie, what do you think?
Basically what Renee is saying as well. It's it's wrong. And like how we were just talking about with the other post. Again, if women want for that to stop, then I get why, coming from my perspective, because I am a girl. They're doing it for a reason because guys do it to them. But again, if they want that change, they need to stop doing it themselves first. That's where the change is going to start.
Mm-hmm. So let's play the scenario, Renee. You set up a scenario where you feel that the double standard issue comes more often than not. What would that scenario be? What's the one thing the girl does that the guy if the guy did it, it's wrong, but if the girl does it, it's not seen the same way?
I mean, the user had a pretty
The
good
harassing?
scenario. The harassing thing.
The playful thing, yeah.
That's,
One is harassment, one is playful.
one is harassment and one is playful.
Okay,
If I go down campus
yeah.
and I see someone I know, I see a girl I know, I playfully smack her on the ass.
Mm-hmm.
Her first reaction, what the fuck? What did you just do?
Yeah.
If a girl does that to me, it's like, oh, hi, you know?
Like you have a cute butt.
You have a cute butt, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just how it is, but it's not how it should be.
Yeah. And if it's a verbal, it's the same thing. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
verbal, physical.
Like if you tell a girl, damn, you look nice today, the girl,
her first
you
reaction would
kidding
probably
me?
be, are you hitting on me? Like,
yeah. Especially if you don't know her.
I have a boyfriend.
First response always, especially in the DM.
But
Mm-hmm.
if a girl tries to approach the guy and she says, you're what?
You're cute.
You're cute. You're hot.
You have a cute butt.
You're fine.
Yeah, you're
Right,
fine.
whatever.
That's okay. The guy can't say anything.
But I also feel like, because most of the time a guy would take it in a stride and be like, hell yeah, like she's hitting on
So
me.
then
Yeah.
does it become,
Guys take more pride in it.
so is
Yeah.
there a difference between something being double standard physically to something being double standard verbally? And like in this case, the playfully and quote unquote harassing action of touching someone's ass, depending on the sex, and verbally commenting on someone. Is there a significant difference between double standard on the physical against the verbal?
Pretty much everything in life, it depends on the situation. For the most part, yes, because flirting can be interpreted as more playful
Mm-hmm.
when you do it
Innocent
physically.
too.
More innocent when you do it physically.
Okay.
But when you do it verbally, a lot of the times people take words at face value, but they don't always read your actions at face value.
Yeah.
So it's that whole, I'm saying something, I'm speaking words, but are you getting my message? People, like I said, they just take that at face value.
Yeah.
I might be saying something, but that's not the message I'm trying to convey. With actions, to conclude, I think that
there's a significant difference.
There's a significant difference between physical and verbal.
Okay.
Quote unquote flirting.
So the top comment on this post is from Cho_assmilk.
Chain?
Ass milk?
Cho_assmilk. And the comment says, pendulum hasn't made its way back. I think it's actually broken and stuck. He or she is talking about how the double standard issue. It's on one side now. The pendulum is on one side. This user is saying that it's not come back the other way, where it's fair and it keeps going from one side to the other. And now our last post from International Women's Day's unpopular opinion segment, we have user Zany Fish with their unpopular opinion that says International Women's Day is pointless. And the snippet reads, before I get completely trashed on the comment section, let me explain my reasoning as to why I believe this, is how the snippet begins. And it continues as, first off, the problems and conflicts brought up at the meetings and discussions are so menial and really not impactful whatsoever. There are women who are forbidden the right to vote and the right to talk to other men, as well as sex trafficking, and yet topics such as basketball sneakers designed for women are brought up. Women have shoes not designed for men. Secondly, the women's right movement calls for equality, not special treatment. However, most feminists and women's rights activists call for women's special privileges. I mean, there's no International Men's Day. Not that I believe that there should be any international day for one specific gender, but to truly reach equality, have an International Equality Day where actual problems try to get solved, stating with desolate places like most of Africa and Saudi Arabia, and then moving on to more minuscule problems that we face as a world. So essentially, this user is saying this day is stupid. It's pointless because there isn't an International Men's Day, because if we were looking for equality, that would mean equality, but there's only an International Women's Day. There are still deeper problems within the women's rights movement because we are fighting for issues like basketball sneakers, which I think is in reference to the Steph Curry issue, where there was a young girl who asked him via a letter saying, I wanted to get your shoes, but there's no size for women. And he's sent a reply saying, oh, we're going to get that fixed. The user is saying that that's the problem we focus on for equality when we should be talking about countries in Africa or in Saudi Arabia. Women's rights has not done anything, nor is it in the main headline news. Essentially, this is what the user is saying. What do you guys think?
User brings up a very good point where glorifying one particular side of something kind of undermines you trying to bring equality to that topic. If we're talking about race, glorifying one particular race for the sake of, I'm trying to bring equality, undermines you bringing that equality. It's kind of like a catch-22. Glorifying women and giving them this day, again, I think this should be on the regular. This shouldn't just be today. But glorifying them on just one specific day and not showing the same love, not showing the same respect to all the males out there, it undermines your point. You're caught in a cycle. If you really want to try and bring equality, again, going back to the whole self-love thing, start on the inside. You want to change the world? Change yourself. You feel passionate about this. You want to go out there and fight. Make sure you're fighting for the right thing in the right way. Because when you don't, you can come off the wrong way and you're just undermining your point and you're never going to get there. That's why we don't see a lot of people actually achieve their goals, because they're not going about it in the right way. But they don't realize it. They're caught in this vicious self-cycle of, well, I have to change the world, so I have to push and implement my agenda on them. But that's not how it should be.
Angie?
The Western culture actually has to pay more attention to the Eastern culture. Throughout my high school and college and elementary school, from the books and films that I have seen, from the struggles of, the other women on the other side of the world, what they have to go through, via marriage or education wise, how many women would actually, or even young girls in elementary or high school, no matter what age they are, for them to get an education, to have a career, or even if it's not a career, just to have a job. How many women would actually like to have that? I feel like here in the Western culture, a lot of, let's say, especially throughout high school, from what I've seen, men and women take education for granted. And personally, for me, I've always taken my education seriously. So for other people to not take their education seriously, I get that, that education and college or whatnot isn't for everybody. But at least take advantage of what you have, no matter what gender you are, what's being given to you. Because again, if you were in a different position in a different culture, you would want to have that. And for granted, you're not taking advantage of what's being given to you.
that ends our Reddit segment for that specific subreddit. We will read the top comment for this post. This comes from the sadly username Mumbler Rapist Garbage. And that comment says 100% agree. We will now be moving into the last Reddit post for today's segment, and it is about textbooks. It's from Vox.com. It's found on the subreddit of books. The post basically says textbooks costs have risen nearly 1,000% since the 70s. What I wanted to talk about was we're 3 college students. We have 2 juniors and a senior. We have bought textbooks digitally and in paper. And I want you guys, just a quick summary, what do you guys think about the price of textbooks from your first year and you're now third, and what to me would be my 4th year? So I'd like to start off with Angie, who looks like she has the most to talk about. Angie?
Yes, again,
She looks a
because
little
I like
excited.
education. Yes.
All right,
See,
take it-
again.
take it
one
away.
example.
You go, girl. Empower yourself.
All right. So with textbooks, reading itself, reading for fun or reading for class or whatnot, that is, especially more if it's like a novel type of thing. But textbook prices, from what I've seen as well, especially again, like how Louis just mentioned, being college students, broke, stressed, and depressed, it is really expensive. But personally, I like having the textbook in front of me. I like being able to flip the pages, bookmarking it, making highlights to it if I'm able to, and, you know, just doing during elementary school and high school. Ebooks, to me, are only convenient and handy when it's cheaper. And because I am a tiny girl, you know, last semester I was carrying a lot of textbooks, and ebooks do make a difference in, you know, carrying what you have in your book bag, in your hands, and in your locker. So
you don't want back problems from an early age.
exactly. The pros for the ebooks, again, money-wise, you save money. Like if you're tiny like me, you're weak.
So much
not that
for
muscle.
empowerment.
So exactly, you're not weak.
Yeah, just with like the carrying and stuff.
What
You don't
about
want
you,
to be
Renee?
carrying.
When you mentioned this whole textbook thing,
Yeah.
my mind went on a totally different tangent from
What
the
is the
whole
tangent?
ebooks versus textbooks thing.
What was it about?
Mine was on how you said the prices have gone up and 1,000% or whatever.
Yeah.
And my mind instantly went, they've gone up, but it's like, so has everything else.
Yeah.
If you think
Yeah.
about it, that's where my mind went. You know, one of my favorite examples when I talk about the price of things is those little bags of 25-cent chips you used to get back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
4 for $1.
Exactly.
Yes.
4 for a buck.
So much has changed. That's not even a price issue as well. There's more to that.
Now it's 59 cents for
For 2 bags.
But
yeah.
it's
But-
more.
and what's in the bag?
It's
Yeah.
more than the whole hydrogen, keep it fresh or whatever.
Yeah, there's so much space in there. The little chips.
It's a
But
rip-off.
yeah, there's more to it than the price. Obviously, there's also inflation and all those other fun economic terms everyone likes to hear about.
Yeah.
The price of everything has gone up, and that's why you have to stay ahead of that curve. You know, if the price of education might seem high to you now, I'd rather pay the price for education now than pay the price for ignorance later. Quote me on that, Renee Flores, because that was some dope shit. Right
So the top comment for this post says, Mike D. So has tuition. In the late 60s, my father was able to pay for an entire semester with only the money he saved from a summer job. And then there's a whole thread of comments to the point where this user had to edit their comment. Add a second part that says, a lot of people saying that this is still possible if you work full-time in summer and save every dime. Theoretically, yes, you could pay tuition alone with that. My dad lived alone, bought his own Mercury cooler, and still paid for his first semester of college every year. Books and everything included. Grandparents paid for the spring semester. That was their deal. Well, there's a lot of things to take into account to that story. 1, inflation. 2, college was only limited probably to... There was a lot of people that weren't allowed to be in college during that time, if we're talking about the 60s.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into that comment, but he is also pointing out the truth, which is tuition has also gone up. But if you want to read more, I highly encourage to read the Vox.com article of why textbooks have gone up.
For me and all the people who didn't catch it, can you tell me the name of the article, please?
The name of the article is The High Cost of College Textbooks Explained. Okay, we move on to... It comes from Ask Woman, the subreddit, and I want Angelica to answer this first. This post comes from the user Budget Groom on the subreddit Ask Woman, and the question from the user says, how do you deal with friendships ending that you thought would last forever?
Well, first it will go more mentally,
Okay.
and then emotionally, and
Okay.
then back mentally, in my opinion. You know, people going their own ways, taking different routes, you know, life happens
Uh-huh.
to, you know, work things out or, you know, to be in something. It's not, if one person is doing all the work, then, you know, purpose for that. And
True-
I get
true
that
things.
there are days in a friendship or in a relationship where, you know, it's not always going to be 50-50 coming from both. You know, sometimes it's going to be like 60 and 40 from the other person, or 10% for somebody else and 90%. But again, if nobody is fighting, if one person isn't fighting for the friendship or relationship, then
You shouldn't
there's
be
no
there.
purpose. Exactly.
Renee?
I don't know if it's because I'm a guy or because of my different personality, or
Mhm.
maybe a mixture of both.
Or all.
But
That's what you meant by both.
I personally don't consider any of my friendships to have quote unquote ended.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person that I don't really burn bridges. I'm not. I don't really
Mm.
get into. I don't leave arguments unresolved. So I can't think of one specific example where I'm not like on cool terms with anyone. Where I can't hit up someone from my past or talk to them. Maybe if I see them on the street, I can always like just walk up to anybody, past or present, and kind of just be like, "Hey, what's up?" Or like just talk to them. I don't know if it's because I'm a guy or just my personality.
Yeah.
But I don't really burn bridges because I never know if I might need to cross that bridge one day. You know?
Yeah. So the top comment for this post, it comes from Existential Cooties, and the user says, "It's just part of life. Even if things end on good terms, sometimes you just grow apart and lose touch. I enjoy things while they last. Nothing lasts forever."
Exactly.
I
agree
like
with
to
that.
disagree with that statement.
I agree with the statement.
PSG
Which-
are bottlers.
The next topic is Renee's Twitter segment. Renee, your time to shine.
Don't I always shine?
No, that's me.
So over onto my Twitter segment. We have National Book Day yesterday, but no one seems to talk about it. So what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think people still read? Do you think, and I'm not talking about like for class.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about for fun,
Fun.
for leisure, exactly. Or not even just fun, for self-knowledge, but not academically speaking. There's a lot of like good books out there. What do you think?
I believe that there's very few people left, or very few people that actually still do. Again, with technology emerging and whatnot, people don't pay attention to reading or writing, journaling, anything that's gonna help them be a better person in a positive aspect. People now more are concentrated on going out, whether it's drinking, smoking, watching TV, Netflix, more to them, out and doing something fun. I don't think people anymore find that. But I do think that there's very few people left who still like to do it.
Luis, what do you think about books and this whole topic in general, National Book Day?
I disagree with Angie. I think people are still reading. I love going to cafe spots around the city, and I see a ton of people still reading, buying books. I think the issue lies more on digital versus paper. I think that's a topic that most people have talked about throughout the last couple years. But to me, I love reading. I read as much as I can. I take advantage of the library we have here at school, and I check out as much as I can and find the time to read. I find the time. I still spend a lot of money on books.
Yeah, I fall somewhere kind of in the middle. I do agree with Angie's point that not as many people as there were in the past are reading.
Mm-hmm.
But Lewis also did bring up a good point about the whole digital versus paper. People also do read a lot on their books, on their textbooks or in technology,
Or audio as well.
Or audio,
Yeah.
but you just don't know they're reading.
Yeah.
So moving on to our next What's Trending topic, we actually have a little throwback to your childhood. Anybody who's ever seen, heard, or watched the Winnie the Pooh series.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're going to discuss this little quote that I think relates to this whole self-empowerment thing. The quote goes, "You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think." Cue the aww. This quote was from Christopher Robin's Winnie the Pooh. Luis, thoughts, comments?
I think it's a wonderful inspirational quote, one that you could put on top of your bed or in your lock screen on the phone and just look at it and remind yourself of who you can be and who you are meant to be. Everyone's meant to be someone or something that it will leave a legacy in the world, whether it's small, medium, or big.
Except for PSG. PSG can never win the Champions League. Angie, go.
Oh, y'all funny. Anywho, I agree with Lewis a lot. Again, like how we were speaking about earlier with the self-esteem, but similarly to what we were talking about earlier about self-esteem and self-love, it all starts with that as well. Everything starts with your mindset and the mindset itself. Whatever you tell and you're feeding your brain, that's what's gonna be coming out. So if you have a negative aspect towards everything, you're gonna have negative everything. So if you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, today's gonna be a bad day, I don't want to get up, oh, today's gonna suck,
So
well, then that's how it's
you're
gonna
saying
be.
that pessimism is going to follow you the rest of the day.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or no matter what you do. So if you support yourself, surround yourself with positive stuff, positive people, then that's what you're gonna have. There's tons of people, whether if they seem confident or not, deep down there are people that cover it up with that. They cover up their their low self-esteem with cockiness or being confident.
Yeah.
While they're not. You may not see that, but it's actually something that they probably go through. Again, people underestimate themselves, but you don't know what you're capable of until you actually do it, and you tell yourself the opposite otherwise.
So moving on to our last what's trending topic before I metaphorically pass the mic to Angie. How would you respond to this question? How far are you willing to lie for a friend?
I think you mentioned it before, but I think it depends on the friend. To me, I'd go far for my best friends. I wouldn't say I would do illegal stuff, but if it's illegal enough where the consequence is not too large, I wouldn't mind doing it. Because if they're my best friend, then I know that I trust them with doing the same thing for me if I was in that situation. So I think I would go far, but not too far.
Angie?
Same with Lewis. I'll do anything for him or her, but if it involves like the law and stuff like that, yeah, I'll have to think about that.
So Angie, we're passing the mic, metaphorically speaking, to you.
We are introducing a new segment to the show. It is called Angie Asks, and Angie will be asking me and Renee 3 questions, and we will be answering them at our own
leisure.
All right, first question. It's up to you guys, whoever wants to answer first.
Okay.
How does your definition of a quote-unquote real man differ from the mainstream stereotype of a quote-unquote real man?
Renee, I'll let you take this one first.
Thank you. Well, let me start off by defining the two terms. So you brought up the mainstream media's definition of a real man.
Mm-hmm.
The mainstream media's definition of a real man is somewhere, it's that whole macho image.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be cut. You have to be basically brawny.
Define brawny.
Brawny, strong.
All right.
And not just physically.
Strong, athletic, smart.
Muscles.
Kind of like a don't care attitude.
Okay.
Men are basically very objectified in the mainstream media. That doesn't get talked about enough, and I'm not going to talk about it now because you asked me a different question. So that's what the mainstream media's definition is.
So what's yours?
My definition of a real man, a man who's not afraid to do what's right, and someone who's not afraid to go against that mainstream image. This is my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I think sometimes men can have it harder than women fighting against that mainstream image of them. Because if you're portrayed as soft, or if you make yourself seem soft, or if you talk about feelings or anything like that, people will automatically assume, well, oh, he's not a real man.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll go as far as to like question your gender.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's expressing his emotions. That's so gay. Something like that, you know? So I think the real men are those who aren't afraid to do those things, put their emotions out there, put themselves out there, say what they really think, do what's right. Yeah. They're the people who aren't afraid to do that, and they don't care what other people think or what someone might say about them.
Now it's Lewis's turn.
I agree 100% with the mainstream image of a man. I do think, though, that it is changing. Things like a man can't cry if it isn't in sports or a death. Mm-hmm. Or for love is now not just the norm. There's other things that men are able to do. The stereotypical, and it's pushed a lot by people of high influence, athletes, celebs. And it's either started by them or picked up by them following someone else's steps that they've seen online. His definition of a man would be different to me. A real man is just a person who embodies who they are and accepts who they are, whether they are a provider or they are a supporter or they're both. I think a real man, there is no such thing as a real man. I think it's just a man. I think there should be less traits to categorize it than there is by other people who have their different definition of what a real man is supposed to be.
All right. Moving on to the second question. What do you like to do that is traditionally considered feminine?
That's a good question.
I'll take this one because
you thought of one right away.
I thought of one right away, and I know you thought of the same one I thought of.
Maybe.
Really?
I don't know. We'll see.
Connection?
I love to take good care of my hair. I love to properly shampoo and condition and everything.
That's just you, honey.
I could tell.
That's just you, honey. I don't give a shit about my hair.
We could tell.
I love it though. I love it though.
I like
right now, one of us is considerably not paying attention to the hair, and it's the one person who does.
So
the cap says it all.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Cool.
No,
Kidding. Okay, cool. All right,
kidding.
Go for it, Renee. Sorry, my bad. I didn't want to interrupt.
I was actually having a bad hair today.
Hair day.
I was actually having a bad hair today.
Renee,
I was actually having a bad hair day today.
Move on to your point.
Thank you, Lewis.
No problem.
But yeah, that's I think that's something that's generally considered feminine
to do.
That it's kind of stupid if you think about it. Why is taking proper care of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Why is doing something like threading or plucking your eyebrows?
Yeah.
Manscaping, making sure you maintain that proper hygiene. Why is that feminine?
But that's also a thing with the comment I made. It's also a thing that's also changing. It's no longer being seen as too feminine.
Yeah.
It's now, oh, you want to go? Me and my boyfriend went to go get a manicure or a pedicure, and it's like, oh, that's awesome, you know? Or hey, I got this spot where you can go, and it's like among guy friends, yeah,
stuff like
facial
that,
masks
yeah.
are being worn on guys, and they're talking about it. You don't have to be, you know, the stereotypical, oh, if you do a feminine thing, it's a gay thing. You're gay. You must be gay or bisexual or whatever. But now straight, confident men are talking about it like nothing.
And I think, but I think we have to be careful because, or we
It's
have to
not
be
everywhere.
specific because
Yeah.
exactly, maybe within the United States, right here where we're at, the
Or
culture,
our own circles.
within our own circles. But if you think about, I'm specifically thinking about like my parents.
Yeah.
They'll often criticize me and they'll tell me stuff about why I spend so much time on my hair, why I do all this, why I do all that. It depends on what assumptions you're drawing from, what assumptions of the feminine, of what's feminine. Because like Louis said, everything here in the United States, there's kind of been like a shift towards what's considered feminine or not. But that's not necessarily true in other places. And since we have the honor of being able to comment on things on the culture here and in our native Mexico and or Latin America, wherever you're from, Hispanic, you do see that they're a little more closed-minded when it comes to how males should take proper care of themselves.
I think I was thinking about my answer as you were making your comment. One of the first things I would say I do that is considered to be feminine would be I do a lot of hand gestures, and sometimes they can be seen as feminine. So it's just normal to me. I mean, I never think about it, nor am I approached about it. That's one of the luckiest things I can think of. Lucky of me to be in that situation because of the people I surround myself with. I know not everyone is lucky enough to be themselves, but I think not thinking about it, that would be a thing I do, but it's always been a part of me, so I've never really thought about it as a feminine thing.
All right.
What's your last question, Angie?
Keep them coming.
This is more of a fun, chillax one. So yeah.
Chillax. Look at her.
Chillax.
Wow.
Yeah, and
21 in 2019.
21 Savage. Okay.
Jesus.
What video game do you wish life was more like?
Lise, I'll let you take this one.
Well, yeah, I think I play more video games than you do. And I don't even play on that much. But I would say the game I would wish my life would be more like would be, I want to say FIFA. And I know that sounds, which is Renee's answer too. But I have a different explanation to why. So I played soccer for 11 years. It was all I loved. I loved the sport. I still love it. I watch it. I read about it. I talk about it. All that. It's my favorite sport. But I had to stop due to medical issues. I've not played a single game of soccer or football. It'll be 3 years this summer, I believe. 3 or 4 years. On the top of my head, I don't remember. But every day, there's not 1 second where I don't think about it. And I reminisce on my playing days. So I would want that game to be my life because I get to play again. And that would make it nice.
I would like my life to be like the Need for Speed series, the Need for Speed video game.
Oh, I know that one.
Do you?
That one. Yes, I do.
You drive like Need for Speed. I mean, hopefully there's no law enforcement listening to this. But you drive similar cars in Need for Speed.
My driving is heavily influenced by Need for Speed.
Okay.
Oh, that's something. That's another conversation. Do video games influence actions?
Not the
Laws-
right podcast.
Laws are
Yes.
just suggestions. I think the reason I would like for it to be like the Need for Speed series is because life isn't about the destination, it's about the drive. You know?
Wow, how cute.
Thank you.
So that wraps up our first installment of Angie Asks. Thank you, Angie, for introducing this beautiful segment.
No problem.
So we're going to go to our breaking news story that isn't really breaking news story because it was a news story about yesterday, but breaking news story that I would like quick comments from both of you is a sports related news, and it says the article comes from Routers.com, and the article reads, World Champion U.S. Women's Soccer Players Sue Federation for Gender Discrimination. So thoughts on today's beautiful International Women's Day?
I think it's right that they did that.
Renee, more of a sports fanatic than Angie in comparison?
I
Yeah.
concur, but I'm going to add a little more meat to the sandwich.
Okay.
All right.
The women, considering the success of the national women's team, they are criminally undervalued
Exactly.
compared to the men's team because the women have won like what, 2 World Cups in a row? Then they've won
More
like
than men I've seen
They've-
and heard of.
Their accomplishments are greater than the men's
Yeah.
U.S. soccer team.
by
Exactly.
far.
I've seen that somewhere.
Yeah,
on campus.
they don't get paid
Yeah.
the same.
but simply because they're girls, because they're females, they don't get treated the same. They don't get that same. They don't get paid the same. They don't
don't
the
get
same
marketed the
recognition.
same.
They
Yep.
don't get. They don't get anything the same.
So this is fair. This is
So
coming.
I think that lawsuit has been a long time coming.
Okay, so that wraps up for our breaking news story. Now, as always, I'd like to thank our 2 lovely hosts today. We have Renee Flores. Thank you for joining me again, and I cannot wait to see you next week.
I can.
And thank you, Angelica. We hope to see you more often on the pod.
If you let me, then I will. Well, if no, then
I don't want
okay.
to see her.
Wow.
Wow, friendships. We'll see each other tonight, though. That doesn't matter.
That's
So
love.
now we end, as usual, our pod with a nice, bright, laughing note. Today comes from the subreddit I'm 14 and this is deep. The user is hey311. Our title of the post says, found this on a Fortnite video, and it is a joke. And it says, it's a girl and boy conversation. It's a girl and then it goes to a boy, and it alternates. So it starts with the girl saying, as soon as I can. Boy, will you ever leave me? No, are you crazy? Do you love me? The girl says, yes, a lot. Boy, have you ever cheated on me? Girl, no, never. Boy, will you ever kiss me? Girl, every chance I get. Boy, will you ever hit me? Girl, definitely not. Boy, can I trust you? Girl, yes. Boy, babe. Now, read it backwards. Thank you for tuning in for today's pod. As always, follow us on our Twitter account at Toad Podcast. Follow us at SoundCloud at Toad Podcast. Feel free to share it with friends and family. Show us some love. We enjoy doing this. We love everyone that listened to the podcast last week, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you again.